So a while ago, I was speaking to an interior design firm principal, and he told me about an incident at one of his recent projects. He said that there was a consultant who had recently issued an updated drawing, but the contractor never got it. And as a result, the site kept on working on the basis of a previous revision. About a week later, somebody noticed, and as soon as they noticed, the phone calls started, emails started, meetings were scheduled, and everyone started to work double shifts, extra hard just to fix the situation. The contractor, of course, adjusted the work, and the consultant, of course, reissued the drawing. Client was frustrated, but life went on. Project recovered. Then the principal looked at me and said something which struck me. He said communication broke down, but when I keep thinking about that statement, I'm not sure if that's what happened. Let's re examine what actually happened in this event, in this story. Nobody deliberately hid information. Nobody was trying to sabotage the project. Everyone believed that they were doing the right thing. The consultant thought that the latest drawing was with everybody. The contractor, however, believed that they were building on the basis of the latest, most current information. And the project manager, he thought that everyone was completely aligned. Every individual was acting completely logically based on the information available to them. See, the problem wasn't that people weren't talking. Again, not communication. The problem was that they were making decisions on the basis of different versions of reality, different versions of truth. And that feels more like a coordination failure rather than a pure play communication failure, because coordination does tend to get confused a lot with communication, because on the surface they look quite identical, right? They're both about talking to people, about meetings, about emails, about phone calls, but they're solving entirely different problems. Communication is just the act of exchanging information. Coordination, however, is making sure everyone's on the same page. They're acting on the same information, and they're not the same things. You can have excellent communication yet fail at coordination, and here is the part that I think most firms underestimate. Even within coordination failures, there can be two completely separate levels of failure that you could have. One could create, let's call it a transactional loss. Sure, there was a gap. Somebody called you for clarification. You spent 15 minutes resolving it, and then what? A drawing was reissued. Meeting gets added to a calendar. Not ideal, but the project keeps moving on, just like life, which also keeps moving on. And then there are compounding losses. Those are dangerous. Think about it. Let's say one time a consultant wasn't included in an important review meeting. A major design decision happened in that project, and now multiple consultants suddenly needed to revisit their work. The client started to ask why design kept on changing, and the team lost a little bit of confidence. Project recovered. Projects always recover at the cost of time or scope or something. But something else happened that nobody measured. The next project got another approval step. The team became a little bit more cautious. Consultants stopped making decisions without written confirmation, without your boss in CC. Project managers scheduled just a little bit more meetings just to be safe. See, nobody officially was trying to slow the business down. It happened naturally. Once coordination failures, they tend to come into the system, they tend to happen once or twice, then the entire organization's behavior through its people tends to change. The project itself ended, but the operational consequences they lingered on and started to affect future projects even before they came into the system. And that's why I think founders should worry a lot less about how many mistakes have happened, and they should worry a lot more about what are the lessons, the behaviors that those mistakes have created within the organization, because these behaviors are going to compound. But let's come back. So, if coordination is not communication, what is it? I think coordination really is about reducing uncertainty at its very core. Think about every coordination problem you've ever seen. Somebody didn't know, somebody assumed, somebody worked on an outdated drawing, somebody approved version 6 while somebody else thought version 5 was the latest one. Somebody interpreted a communication differently, right? Different understanding of the same conversation. Every coordination failure, it starts with uncertainty, and that's why at Immaculate platform we don't think that answer is simply giving people yet another way to communicate, yet another avenue to communicate, because the goal is not more messages. You know as well as I do that more messages a lot of times create more problems rather than less. The goal is making sure every stakeholder, consultant, contractor, team member, even the client, they're all working from the same version of project truth, project reality. Because everyone, if they're sharing the same project reality, then communication is going to become dramatically simpler and so will coordination. Now let's go back to the story we started with, the consultant, the contractor, the outdated drawing, the week of confusion. And now imagine the exact same project. The same people, the same design, the same contractor, but this time everyone knows exactly which decision is current. Everyone knows who approved it, and everyone knows with certainty that they're looking at the latest information. Do you think the project would still have needed fewer phone calls? Probably, but I think there's a more interesting question. Would the mistake have happened at all? Because great firms, they don't become more efficient by communicating more. They become more efficient by reducing uncertainty every single day. If you've experienced something similar to this in your own project, I would love to hear about it. What looked like a communication problem but turned out to be something much deeper? And if you're interested in the operational side of running architectural firms, interior design firms, consider subscribing. We explore systems, decisions, operational patterns that quietly determine whether firms scale or whether they slowly become more complex. Everything you've seen in this video and will continue to see as part of videos in this series is based on principles that we've spent years building into the Immaculate platform. If you'd like to experience them inside an operating system built ground up purely for design and architecture firms, start your free trial today at immaculate.co.in/trial. Thank you.